I want to do an introductory video on March Madness. Why it's so exciting, what it is, why people just go crazy for this event over the next few weeks, and just maybe get you hyped up a little bit for it too if you are somebody who just has no interest in it, or if you want some interest in it and want just a general overview of the tournament, how it works, what makes it fun, what I guess how you go from this empty bracket, no teams filled out until picking your winner, how the seeding, what the seeding means. So just kind of all that just general overview of information. If you're looking for something that's deeper, that's not what I'm going to do. There's much better people out there for that. But if you are trying to do this with your family or with your friends or coworkers, whatever situation you find yourself in, if you're like, I have no idea what this is, I don't know what March Madness means, I'm going to try to answer some of those questions for you. So March Madness is the NCAA basketball tournament. Division 1, they take 68 teams. There's 4 play-in games, which are going to be played this Tuesday and this Wednesday. And the winners of those games will get into the final 64 teams, which is the outside of this bracket. This part right here represents the 4 playing games, which have been added in the last, I think, 10 years. A little bit gimmicky, but people wanted it to expand it a little bit and give some more teams an opportunity to get into the tournament without watering it down too much. I think it works okay. I'd still prefer this to not happen. I think, well, I'll get into that another time. So after that point, on Thursday, the real tournament will begin, and it's going to be 64 teams, and there will be on Thursday 16 games played. So 2 teams play 1 game, obviously. It means 32 teams play on Thursday, 32 teams play on Friday. The winner on Thursday plays another team who won on Thursday, and they play their next game on Saturday. So then 8 games will be played on Saturday, 8 games will be played on Sunday. From that point, they have a few days off, and the tournament picks up again the following Thursday, in which that'll be the Sweet 16. So I think then 4 teams will play Thursday, 4 teams will play Friday, and then from there they go to the Elite 8. So 2 teams play Saturday, 2 games played Saturday, 2 games played Sunday. Hope I said that right. On Thursday and Friday there will be 4 games played. On Saturday and Sunday, 2 games played. And then the final weekend is the Final Four. 2 games will be played Saturday night, and the championship will be played Monday night, which I think is, April 4th. So they'll play that game in New Orleans. I think it'll be in the Superdome. So if 60, 70, some odd thousand people will be watching that live. But the first round, we'll get into that, is played kind of all around the country. You've got Pittsburgh, North Carolina, Washington, California, Texas. There's all these different cities hosting opening round tournament games. So the first round is just kind of played all over the country. And then the second round is played in those same areas. So they do it so teams don't have to travel different distances for that first weekend. And then the following week, starting with the third round, where the Sweet 16, that'll be played in a different area. Those games will be played in different areas until you get to the Final Four. Then all the remaining teams will be in the same location. I think that's logistically, that's for marketing purposes of getting games all over the country and drawing up ticket sales all over there. Tickets to this tournament are always a little bit pricey, but I think I know they would be worth it. Yeah, so the seating is such that you've got this one next to Gonzaga. Gonzaga is presumed to be the best team in the tournament. They were given the number one overall seed. But then over here, you've got one next to Arizona, and you've got a one next to Kansas, and then a one next to Baylor. Hope that's coming in clear. But those are the four number one seeds, which the committee, which is a group of individuals from across the country, I think representing different athletic departments from schools, they sit down in a room and over a span of a few weeks decide who are the best teams and who should make the tournament as at-large teams. There's 32 teams who win their conference tournaments, which were played and finished over the last 10 days, I think. Those teams automatically make the tournament. And then there's 36 teams that this committee has to pick. They have to pick 36 teams from the remaining 300 or so teams that didn't get automatic wins for winning their conference tournament. So the committee, I think, does a pretty good job in general. Their complaints are usually, whatever. Like if I would have done it myself, people would have had, as many complaints as they have about the committee. It's like a very difficult thing to do. A lot of challenges revolving around that. But by now, I think teams in general know what they have to do to satisfy the demands of the committee, just based on what they've done in the past, and then even things that the committee have divulged to the public of what they're looking for as far as at-large teams, or who gets a 1 seed and who gets a 2 seed. So all that information is pretty open, and I don't think there's a ton of secrets behind it. The committee definitely favors schools from what are called the Power 5 or Power 6 conferences, so the Big 10, the ACC, SEC, Big 12, those kind of bigger conferences with bigger names in them. That's where your Duke is from, North Carolina, Kentucky, Ohio State, Michigan State, UCLA. Those bigger schools, they, from those conferences, definitely get preference over a team like Kent State. Never, because they didn't win their conference tournament, they never had a chance to become an at-large team, because their conference, just to be stated bluntly, is not as good as the other ones. And their schedule wasn't as difficult because of that, and any wins they had throughout the regular season weren't good enough, and they didn't have enough of them to satisfy the committee's demands. So they're left out of the tournament. So when you're looking at this bracket and you see a 1 next to Gonzaga or a 1 next to Arizona, you're knowing, okay, this is presumed to be one of the 4 best teams in this tournament. When you see a 2 next to the team, you say, okay, this is one of the 8 best teams in the tournament. Because there's 4 2 seeds, 4 1 seeds. That's 8 total seeds of 1 and 2. And it goes all the way down to seed 16, which we'll just focus on Gonzaga and Georgia State. So Georgia State is, I guess, one of the worst teams in the tournament according to the committee, which there's no shame in making the tournament. So I don't want to sound like I'm belittling Georgia State. I think it should be, if you were playing for Georgia State, you would be thrilled just to make the tournament, because that's a small school. It's not, some school that has high expectations of, basketball prominence. And just to be a part of this tournament, I think for so many players is just like, what an experience, how many people can say, oh yeah, I played in March Madness. I was a part of the March Madness tournament as a player. Right? I was there on the court. I sat on the bench watching it. I was on the court playing. Like, that would be cool. I'm jealous of anybody who gets to say that. So it becomes like this huge experience, for the players, just like like a larger than life like sports moment for people to have. Who played basketball, like you dream about going to March Madness and being a part of this tournament. And the bigger dream, and what makes this tournament so fun, is that we'll just so a game like Duke and Cal State Fullerton. Right? If you've ever heard of Cal State Fullerton, I'm impressed. I don't think I've ever heard of them. But anyone who's semi-familiar with basketball knows who Duke is, and they know that they're good every year. They're kind of like the Yankees of college basketball. Um, so what makes the tournament so fun is a team like Cal State Fullerton, which has no business beating Duke, and there's no indication that they are a better team than Duke, and there's no reason for any sensible person to say, you know what, Cal State Fullerton is going to beat Duke. Duke's got all these All-American players. They got guys who are going to get drafted in the NBA. They're bigger, they're stronger, they're faster, but I think Cal State Fullerton is going to win. I don't know anybody on their team. I don't even know where the school's located, but I think they're going to win. And then, by golly, sometimes those teams win. And it blows everybody's minds, and half of the nation's brackets are like, well, I had Duke winning it all, and now my bracket's done, and we're in 2 hours into this tournament. If it's the first game played or a game played in the first day, you say, what? My bracket's done. Like, it's fun. Like you may have just guaranteed that you're not going to win your bracket for work or for school or for your family. But it's fun. It's fun when that happens. I love college basketball. I watch it a ton over the last month. I don't know how many hours I've spent watching it. More than my wife would prefer, that's for sure. But I'll fill out one of these brackets. I do it every year. I don't fill out just one. I fill out an embarrassing and obscene amount. And I rarely ever finish towards the top. Even if in just like a bracket at work or a pool at work where I fill it out, I'm like, I probably watch more than anyone else here. But I don't ever win them because the tournament, right? It's not called March Mildness or March Predictable Behavior. It's called March Madness because crazy things happen every single day. And then even when things go according to plan, people are so accustomed to the chaos that they've picked all the wrong games. Like, oh wow, all the teams that were supposed to win won. I didn't see that coming, as strange as that sounds. Wow, why did all these teams that were supposed to win? That never happens. That shouldn't happen because it's March Madness. Because the expectation is complete chaos, which is why people love watching it so much, which is why your husband is just like yelling, and you're like, why? Well, honey, why are you yelling? Well, South Dakota State just won. South Dakota State, I've never talked about them in your whole life. I know, but I have them going to the Sweet 16. And, a guy at work, he had this other team that they just beat. He had them going to the Final Four. And now I'm going to beat him, and I'm going to win $50. And that's why I'm acting a fool. So you're filling out your bracket. Don't worry about how little you know about college basketball. Just find some system to pick the teams and pick them that way. Right? You could say, well, this team's got better colors. This team has, I like their mascot. I like their nickname. I like that they're from the state that I grew up in. I like that they're from this place that I just went on vacation. Or, oh, I know somebody who went there. I'm going to pick them. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't pick all of the the bigger number seeds. I wouldn't say, oh, all these 14 seeds are going to win. But when you're going to pick your upsets, you're going to pick what are called Cinderellas. just do whatever you want, right? Nobody's going to laugh about it. Nobody can laugh about it because the tournament is completely unpredictable. The odds of picking a perfect bracket are something like 1 in 9.2 quintillion. I don't know how many zeros that is, but even if it was 1 in 1 million, those would be insanely low odds. But the fact that it's more than a billion and more than a trillion, which I assume quintillion comes after trillion, or is it, there's quadrillion? Is that I don't know if that's a thing or not. But quintillion is a lot. That's more than I make in a year. So you're not going to pick a perfect bracket, and neither is the most knowledgeable man on the planet about college basketball. He's not going to pick a perfect bracket. I don't even know if they have a computer thing that can simulate a perfect bracket. Maybe they could. That's a lot of computations, but I guess we got some pretty advanced supercomputers out there. So the tournament is fun because it's completely unpredictable, because it is chaotic, and because people who have no business winning their bracket pool at work or in your family win the bracket pool in your work or family, just as, right, teams that really have no business winning some of these games will win some of these games. You'll see what I think is cool is you'll have a team where it's got maybe 3 or 4 seniors on the team, and you know that this is the last time these guys are ever going to play competitive basketball at this level. Right? They're not going to get drafted in the NBA. They're probably not going to play overseas. From here on out, they're going to go try to find jobs, as an engineer, in sales or, business somewhere, just normal jobs. I mean, they'll be, a school teacher or whatever it is after this, right? In a year from now, 2 years from now, they're just going to be like people we see on the streets every day. Well, not on the streets, but, in your office or next door or something like that. But they're playing against maybe a team that there's going to be 2 guys from that team who are going to be in the NBA, in a year, and they're going to be really good players in a year or 2 in the NBA. So you have this kind of this dichotomy of that situation where you've got this team that's going to be engineers and school teachers versus a team that is going to be 2 guys go to the NBA and maybe 3 guys go play in Europe or Israel or Australia or somewhere around the globe professionally. And it's like, who's going to win? And you see this team, for whatever reason, they have it going that day. They're making threes like crazy. They're just playing out of their minds. The coach is going crazy, and then, it comes down to the final minute, and somebody makes, a game-winning shot, and that is just one of the most exciting things as far as sports. It's just like, oh my goodness, you watch it, you'll watch that highlight maybe for years or decades to come. The one you'll be telling your kids, grandkids about, like, I was watching this game when, let's find a random game here. St. Peter's was playing Kentucky, and Kentucky had all these players who were going to the NBA. That guy, your favorite NBA player now? Like, he played on that Kentucky team that was beat by St. Peter's, and, this crazy dramatic ending. Like, it's just so cool. Like, such a fun experience to have, to just be a part of. You're not on the court, you're not even in the arena, but just watching it live, it's just so fun. And then there's kind of like the romantic aspect of it, that it's happening like during work hours or during school hours. I remember growing up, one of my teachers, I think it was 8th grade or something like that, we would like fly through our math class, and then he would turn the tournament on. So we're like watching basketball, this tournament while we're in class or at school, or used to listen to the tournament when I was doing construction on the radio. You're just like, trying to do your job, and but you're like, what was that? Like, I just got excited. What's going on? So I just have so many fond memories of the tournament. I'm sure people who you don't understand the passion that they're feeling right now, why they're so excited about a college tournament coming up. It's because of that stuff, because it's so crazy, and all these teams. There's while you're watching the game, they'll give all these interesting stories of this player, like what this player battled through. Maybe one of the players, his dad is the coach, and then it's just like, oh, that's so cool. Um, you can look up any of these videos on YouTube, but Bryce Drew was one of the first ones I can remember. I think his dad was the coach of that team, but he makes one of the most memorable last-second shots in college basketball history. And then Georgia State, who's in the tournament this year, but they had a different coach then. But I think it was a few years ago. The guy's son, I think he made a last-second shot. Could be wrong about that one, but it's happened over the years, and you just see all this stuff. It's like, oh, that is so cool. Or maybe this NBA player's son is in the tournament. They show him in the stands, and then it's like, now that I'm a dad, it's like I can see some of that stuff. Like, I'm imagining. I used to, when I was growing up, imagine like, oh, what it would be like to play in the tournament. Now it's like I'm just like putting myself in the shoes of one of the parents, like when somebody is at the end of a game. I remember it was Kyle Guy for Virginia a few years ago, which YouTube this. This is one of the coolest things I feel like I've ever seen in a basketball game. But he gets fouled. They're down by 3. He has to make all 3 free throws with like no time left on the clock. Which, imagine you're sitting there. There's 20,000 people in the arena just staring at you. You can't miss any of these free throws, and there's millions of people watching you. You've got to, if you miss any of them, your team's not advanced to the next round. And he just walks up, he just drains all 3 of them, just so casually. Just like, that was the coolest things. But I'm just imagining if I'm his dad and I'm in the stands, I'm just like, oh, right. I get a little bit, not too bad, but just like watching my son play now, or just whatever sport he's in, it's like, oh, this is more stressful than it should be for a recreational soccer game or recreational basketball or baseball, whatever it is. Which we're not even keeping score, but you just like, because it's so out of your hands. So just thinking of like, what are the parents of these, college students? Some of these kids are 18 years old and they're playing on this enormous stage, and just with all the pressure in the world. And when they come through and they play well, it's just like, that's so cool. And even in games where a team loses, but you saw like both teams just like battling back and forth. It was just a really well played game, and there wasn't anything dirty happen or anything. It's just like, that was like just so cool to watch. There was a game last year, Gonzaga and UCLA, which is just played at an extremely high level the whole game. Just like, that was like so cool, where at the end you're just like, oh, heart hurts for the team that lost, because like neither of these teams like deserve to lose. Obviously somebody has to win, but just the fun for me as a fan to watch that, and then just like knowing what it's like to lose in sports, and like hurts and stuff. But there is some pride, I think, when it's like, you know what, we gave it our all. That team played extremely. We had to push that team to play as best as they possibly can to beat us. So there's no shame in that. But there's a million other things I love about the tournament. But that's just an overview of why I love the tournament, but also how the tournament operates. And I hope that this has inspired you to just sit back and enjoy the tournament Watch it with your husband, watch it with your son, or whoever you got, watching it that you just can't quite understand why they're so excited right now, and why someone like me is making a video at almost midnight on a Sunday night after the brackets came out. But that's it. I'm gonna try to make a bracket breakdown maybe tomorrow night, going through the teams I'm picking and why, and just give some good rundowns. Again, if you want something deeper and better analysis, there's other ones out there that you can find. I don't think it's too hard to search for. And if that's something that you want, I'm sure you already know how to search for that, but I'm just giving general overviews, just as somebody who's a belligerent fan of college basketball. Thank you.